The fog sits densely in the dark fir forest. After 6 kilometers of gravel road, we reach our destination. The Hotel Val Sinestra stands on the rock like a fortress. There are no tourists in the 68 rooms on this weekend. This is just before the tourist season begins. Only a handful of employees are in the building, and the ghosts. The dead guests are from a time when the hotel was still a health spa, says a Swiss psychic medium who has already conducted research in the hotel on 7 occasions. He reported having made contact with entities from the afterlife. A man, a woman, and a little girl who cannot rest. They once lived here or were treated as patients in the old sanatorium. Those who suffered from the love plague chose the discreetly located retreat. The rust-red, arsenic-rich water from the Ulrichsquelle is said to cure syphilis. Also, consumptive and anemic patients made a pilgrimage to the dark valley of the Lower Engadine. Unfortunately, miracle beverages and thermal baths don't always work. Not everyone left the hotel alive, and some of the dead are still up to mischief in the old Art Nouveau hotel. Today, completely different energies are active on the spa floor of the hotel sanatorium. Negative energies, say former guests and employees unanimously. I didn't believe in ghosts, but this building really changed my mind, says owner Peter Cruet. The Dutchman was commissioned as a civil engineer in 1978 to inspect the then vacant complex, and he bought the property immediately, at a very good price, he says. He is silent about the exact amount. Since then, Cruet has been a hotelier, and always has at least one guest, because even in winter, when there is no one around, the hotel is said to be never completely empty. The permanent guest greeted Cruet audibly when he moved in. As he opened a door one evening, a loud growl resounded at him from the dark. It sounded like the noise of an entire army, the 63-year-old recalls. He was so frightened that he ran to his car and sped away down the narrow road towards the village of Sent, only to come back when it was daylight. A spirit medium by the name of Beatrice Rubli closes her eyes and listens to the room. Beatrice relies solely on what she calls her feeling for subtle things. She has a gift for messages and impressions that others cannot perceive. And here, on the pool floor in Val Sinestra, she feels a strong, persistent presence. The spirit shows her images and dates, she explains. In the bathrooms, on the other hand, Beatrice claims to have received very specific information. She purposely heads for a spot in the hallway, between the wine cellar and bathroom number 5. Peter Cruet and his wife, as well as various employees and guests, had described this exact spot as particularly intense. Here, a customer once started screaming on a tour of the house because she was so unwell, says Cruet. She had to be led away, and a robust security guard who had been hired for an event is said to have witnessed something so terrifying that he stood pale and trembling in front of the sanatorium after a patrol of the thermal baths floor, and vowed never to set foot in the hotel again. Beatrice knew nothing about these stories. She managed to find the exact position near the baths. She stares motionless into space and converses with the long dead. It's kind of reassuring that most who claim to have felt the spirit only report a feeling as if someone was standing close behind them. However, it doesn't appear to be the absolute evil that rumours say is haunting the Val Sinistra. The medium confirms that. The dead Belgian is simply sociable. He likes it when something is going on. But he is lonely down here, especially in the winter months when a large part of the sanatorium is empty and unused. His name is Gilbert or Guillaume, Beatrice continues. He was a soldier, maybe an officer, mid-40s, dark-haired, thin build, and this poor man contracted chronic lung disease during World War I. She feels this because she can't breathe well. He liked being here, and he liked being taken care of, but he did not get well. He probably even died here. In any case, he never returned to his homeland. That's why he couldn't say goodbye to this place. Hotel owner Adrian Cruet has lived with this particular ghost for a long time. They named him Herman. Weird things were happening back in 1978 when my husband bought the abandoned but magnificent building, says the Dutch woman. There were loud noises, the keys were swinging on the hook, the windows suddenly opened. The scariest thing Adrian Cruet experienced? Once a wall clock fell on the floor right next to me. But the problem was in the wall, not the wall itself. One day I was alone in the living room when suddenly ghostly music was heard. She adds, I, who am a natural skeptic, started to believe that something strange was going on within these walls. The spirit plays all sorts of practical jokes, but she was never afraid of Herman. She tells of the first medium who visited the old sanatorium 20 years ago. He found out that Herman's real name was Guillaume and that he was a Belgian soldier who died of tuberculosis in Val Sinistra more than 100 years ago. Guillaume had fallen in love with an employee named Maria, who had complained to him about being mistreated by the hotel managers. At his death, he stayed in the premises in order to protect her. Alarmed guests reported to management that they had heard their child talking to a Guillaume through the baby monitor, says Adrian Cruet. All she could do was reassure them that the spirit was not malevolent.
S'il vous plaît, laissez-moi me présenter. Je m'appelle Guillaume.
The ghost is a romantic nostalgic who wants to get a little attention from the rare visitors on the pool floor. More annoying than scary, Beatrice Rubley explains as she is given more information. Guillaume must have been a regular guest at the sanatorium for several years, around 1927. And he maintained a friendly relationship with the senior doctor and his wife. The woman survived the doctor by 20 or even 30 years. She probably died in the 80s. More disturbing than the idea of standing next to a ghost is the prospect of being the ghost stuck in a cold, empty corridor forever, exclaimed the owners. A certain Albert Nardig was a senior doctor in the sanatorium from 1916 until his death in 1956. Surely all one had to do was look in the 1927 guest book for a Belgian soldier named Gilbert or Guillaume. We never found guest books after the purchase of the property, says the hotel manager. In any case, the manager is happy to know that her permanent guest means no harm. It's possible that the missing guest books will come to light at some point and prove the existence of a Belgian guest named Gilbert or Guillaume, but until then, we'll keep calling him Herman. The 13th century castle of Neubeckberg in Unsingen has a rich history. Once home to brave knights, it was later the seat of the Bishop of Basel. Then a poorhouse, a private residence, an inn, eventually a plundered ruin, and finally a museum. When the present owners, an association, took charge, they also took on the resident ghost. It is said that the evil baron called Kuoni was immured there in 1408. As a robber baron, he had wreaked havoc from the castle and spread fear and terror far and wide. No one was safe from him during his lifetime. He stalked the poor folk in the villages below, and the blood of innocent souls flowed without mercy. The insatiable fellow of horror for many virgins and righteous citizens. The divine punishment for this overtook the fiend in the form of the bubonic plague, the baron being forcibly placed in permanent quarantine in his own castle, walled up alive in the south tower. Supplied with food and drink through a narrow slit, the cruel Kuoni finally died a lonely and painful death. The hatch used to pass food to the baron was bricked up, but that didn't stop his restless spirit from haunting the corridors of the castle to this day. Footsteps are heard in deserted rooms, inexplicable voices in the battlement, and much more, and of electrical devices that all of a sudden go crazy. Herr Jacob has been the castle warden of Neubeckberg for around 15 years.
When I first started here, I first had to get used to the noise. The castle is alive, he says. Sometimes I have a strange feeling. Feels like wearing a backpack.
He feels most comfortable in the kitchen because activity and life used to take place there.
There are rooms in the castle I would never sleep in, only in the kitchen.
He claims to have heard the robber baron walking around in the study room when he was sitting alone in the kitchen one evening. He believes there are such things as ghosts because he has had strange experiences.
Once a girl stopped dead in the castle. I asked her what was going on, but she didn't answer me. I then asked if she saw a spirit. The girl nodded slowly in fear.
Once a friend came by with his dog to visit the castle,
but the animal immediately turned around at the fountain in the entrance, ran out howling, and waited for us in front of the castle.
The castle has often been a focal point for ghost hunters and people with psychic abilities. Jacob is generally somewhat skeptical about their methods, but there is one experience he will probably never forget.
A whole camera team was there, and sound recordings were made,
the castle warden recalls.
While listening to the tape, a voice in Old High German said, "Down to your feet." Then one of the cameras died. The technician tried everything possible to get the device running again, but it wasn't until he knelt down to check the connections from below that the camera worked again.
Sometimes the Baron is helpful. Maybe he's making amends. The piece is so complete that alpine goats, roe deer and stags venture into the flower borders of the 150-year-old hotel. In November, the fog lingers longer over the glacier-green Lake Brienz. The fairy tale castle that shines out of the forest in summer now appears to be hiding in the haze. In winter, the hotel is absent of guests. Not even the sun comes out. For 6 to 8 weeks the place is deserted by every ray of sunshine. And because even a fairy tale backdrop loses its attractiveness in the sunless months, and the old hotel walls can do little to oppose snow and frost, the hotel waits patiently until spring, hibernating in a cocoon of mist. The silver cutlery is packed airtight. The kitchen in the park restaurant is gloomily cold. The beds have been stripped and the doors locked. Only a skeleton staff remain to watch over the old building. One unwanted task is the night shift. Frau Camelia Hermann relates. "Sometimes you hear footsteps somewhere, although you know that nobody else is here," she says, rubbing her arms, on which goosebumps have formed. She prefers not to think about those scary stories that everyone tells here. The lingering spirit of Horace Edouard Davenet, the hotel's long-dead architect, who still haunts the halls of his beloved hotel. He likes to gently touch the employees on their shoulders during their nightly rounds. Horace Davenet built the Grand Hotel Giesbach between 1873 and 1874. His ghost is said to haunt the noble walls above Lake Brienz to this day. "Especially in winter, when the hotel is not open every day. Walking through the hallways and rooms gives you a feeling in the pit of your stomach that you are not alone. says manager Stefania Martinelli. In the sanatorium, the oldest part of the building, people hear footsteps, although the area is deserted in winter. Many say that Monsieur Davenet is still wandering around, keeping an eye on his labor of love. There is especially intense activity near a large oil portrait of him, which hangs in the hotel. Employees of the hotel have reported sightings of Monsieur Davenet, proudly surveying his accomplishment, and no doubt for him, this is his idea of heaven in the afterlife. Some speak also of a woman's voice whimpering and singing when the night crew make their rounds. The old floors creak gently, the windows squeak, and old portrait paintings stare from the walls. The hotel staff try to keep it low-key so as not to scare guests. We believe that there are, above all, mostly good ghosts in our hotel, says director Mark von Weisenfluh. Conventional wisdom has it that nunneries are places of seclusion, prayer, and chastity. Jesus is said to be the bridegroom of these chaste women in veils and black robes. But another image is also present in literature, from the Middle Ages to the famous literary libertine Marquis de Sade. This particular case deals with the results of suppressed sexuality. Monasteries become hotbeds of carnal debauchery. Monks become drunken libertines, and nuns become lascivious whores. At least that's how it was in Kleinbasel, in the Klingenthal monastery, where once a church stood, where the barracks are today. Almost without exception, the women who lived there came from aristocratic families. They brought their servants and their luxuries with them to the convent. They also led a dissolute life there with a variety of lovers. There are also rumors of the nuns drowning their babies in the Rhine when they became pregnant. The church leaders tried to curb the wantonness of the nuns, but again and again the nuns thwarted these attempts, cunningly and rebelliously. Many years later, long after the Reformation, most of the area was converted into barracks. However, in the Kleines Klingenthal, which has housed a museum for a long time, there are still rooms that were once the nuns' cells. When the soldiers first moved into the barracks, they found no rest during the chilly nights, because the spirits of the sinful nuns plagued them in their troubled dreams. These restless wraiths roamed the corridors at night, moaning, wailing, praying loudly for forgiveness for their fleshy, sinful lives. Artists who had their studios in the barracks for years had countless encounters with the ghostly brides of Christ, who continued to either repent or once again enjoy their illicit pleasures. The Spirit House of the Swiss Alps is located in Piotta, a village in the Leventina district in northern Ticino. The old Gotthard Sanatorium, which opened in 1905, once served as a hospital. First it treated soldiers from the First World War, then later tuberculosis patients. The 5-story building with a total of 76 hospital rooms had to close in 1961 for financial reasons. Urbex's adventurers have hair-raising stories to tell. Many recount frightening experiences when exploring the decayed sanatorium. There is also an old rumor that a malevolent doctor performed horrific experiments on patients, who, weak and dying of TB, were completely at his mercy. In 1920, the 5-story building was then transferred to the canton of Ticino and was used for tuberculosis patients under the name Sanatorio Popolare Cantonale di Piotta until the early 1960s. As a result of the decline in this lung disease, operations were discontinued and the doors firmly closed. Since then, the Art Nouveau building has stood empty and seems to be dying a quiet, slow death. Now the sanatorium is practically a ruin that has been overtaken by nature. Doors are hanging off their hinges, entrances and windows are mostly barricaded with wooden boards, and the wallpaper has shed like old skin. Cobwebs and dust adorn the once magnificent walls. Equipment and inventory have long since been removed. The dark corners of the 5-story building and the in-house mortuary are not for the faint of heart. Throughout the decades, unearthly screams and cries have been heard coming from the derelict building. Most would not even venture near the Tomb of Souls during the night hours, but those who have mustered enough youthful and group courage to explore when it's dark have fled in terror each time. The inexplicable sounds and other phenomena have left even the most brave-hearted quivering in fear. Accounts of the wails of misery echoing from the old sanatorium have become so prevalent that even a Swiss newspaper reported on it.
Bis ins Tal hören wir in stillen Nächten Schreie, die vom Sanatorium auskommen.
Through the valley, in the quiet night, screams can be heard coming from the sanatorium.
Was im alten Sanatorium del Gottardo passiert ist bis heute unerklärbar.
What happened in the old sanatorium is right up until this day unexplained.
Es gibt noch mehr Erzählungen. Ein Luzerner hat mit seinen Freunden in der Nacht das Sanatorium erkunden. Plötzlich hat sich das Auto von selber auf der Straße quergestellt.
There's even more to tell. A Luzerner wanted to visit the sanatorium in the night with his friends. Suddenly their car spun round by itself in the middle of the road.
Das Sanatorium ist im Tessin 1905 geöffnet und als Spital genutzt worden.
The sanatorium was opened in 1905 and was used as a hospital.
Dort hat man während dem Ersten Weltkrieg die verwundeten Soldaten behandelt.
There they treated wounded soldiers during World War I.
Nach dem Krieg ist es zum Fachkrankenhaus für Tuberkulosepatienten geworden.
After the war, it was used to treat tuberculosis patients.
Es haltet sich die Legende, dass ein Dr. Mabuse dort dämonische Experimente an seinen Patienten durchgeführt hätte.
There is a legend that a Dr. Mabuse performed demonic experiments on patients there.
Die Schreie kommen von den gequälten Seelen, die er behandelt hat.
Screams come from the tortured patients he treated there.
1962 ist der Betrieb eingestellt worden.
In 1962, the institution was closed.
Das Sanatorium soll eine Akademie für Wintersportler werden. Obwohl sie seit 2016 eine Baubewilligung haben, hat sich bis heute nichts getan. Warum, ist unklar.
The sanatorium was supposed to be turned into an academy for winter sports. Although since 2016 there has been planning permission, nothing has been undertaken. Why is not clear.
Vielleicht, weil bis heute die Geister der Patienten dort ihr Unwesen treiben. Hast du auch schon so mysteriöse Sachen erlebt? Schreib sie in die Kommentare.
Maybe because even until now, the ghosts of the patients are still causing mischief there. Have you experienced anything mysterious there? Let me know in the comments section.
Well, my dear ones, I hope you enjoyed that spooky presentation, getting into the feel of the Halloween season. I thought I would include that Swiss presenter there talking about the Gotthard Sanatorium. I just wanted you to hear how the Swiss German speak. It's quite strange, isn't it? When I first came here, it could have been Swedish to me. It was like gobbledygook. It's a weird feeling to know that I can understand that now, what she's saying. Although she is speaking extremely quick. It's what I call the Gen Z Red Bull speak. It's rapid, without pause, and I think she was probably only given a certain time slot by her bosses. So she's edited out the breathing pauses, and it's just like a rapid fire of speech, very quick. So not all Swiss speak that quick, I can assure you, but it's all over. If you look on YouTube at young people with their videos, they've edited it so that the speech just continues and it's rapid. It drives me nuts, but I know it's just because I'm old. I probably did things when I was young that drove the older generation nuts, especially because in the early 80s I was a punk rocker. And no doubt my outlandish hairstyles and rather bizarre clothing also annoyed the elderly folk. Yeah, so a lot of the information I'd already included, I just really wanted you to hear how they sound in Switzerland. But the bit about the car spinning round, I didn't include that. I did read that guy's account on a paranormal blog here in Switzerland, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I didn't think it was that important to include that. I'm not really sure whether it's true or not. But the sanatorium has indeed had planning permission since 2016. It's in a prime location. It's a beautiful location, so why they haven't went ahead with it, I don't know. Might be possible to do with the amount of work that needs to be done to get that sanatorium back into shape. I've been past it, I haven't been in it, purely because I'm too old to be skipping past the security that's now in place there. I've heard they've got very high security to stop young folk getting in there at night and having parties and
summoning devils and whatnot. So no, I'm not really into those big old sort of hospital industrial buildings. I like the more small homes or hotels that still have stuff in them, furnishings. It's just like an empty shell, really, there. So what did you think about the locations? Huh? I for one, the hotels, what was it, the Val Sinestra? Nice hotel, would have been beautiful in its prime. I have heard that they mostly cater to Dutch holidaymakers from the feedback I read on the booking.com or whatever it is, hotel.com, that of course anyone can go there, but I had read someone's feedback. He was quite annoyed that he couldn't get a booking. He thought it was because he wasn't Dutch. The hotel replied and said that is not the case. It's that we only take weekly bookings, not overnight bookings, and that they themselves go to Holland to collect busloads of Dutch tourists. So whatever works for them, I guess they said that's the best thing for them, and he's quite welcome to come if he books for a week. For that reason, I wouldn't go, but I understand their policy, that financially that's better for them. But the other hotel really interests me, the Grand View, I think it's called. Let me just check. Yeah, that hotel looks amazing, but let's go and have a look at the prices. I'm not sure whether I could really justify spending that much just to spend a night. And I know there are really crappy rooms you can get cheap with no view, but if you're gonna go there, you want the whole lot. Let's go and have a look and see how much they're charging. Okay, I was wrong with the name. It's not called the Grand View, it's called the Grand Hotel Giesbach. Terrible memory in my old age. So, let's have a look for a double room, and we'll put it in, let's say, October, right? Now, October is really out of season. It's getting towards winter. The main holidays are over for parents and the kids. They're all back at school. The parents are back at work. At that time, it's getting quite cool. So the prices should be going down. So let's have a look. So the 19th of October, leaving the next morning. Let's have a look and see how much. Okay, they got one here for $269, which is not too bad, but classic double room with a view of the forest, and we want a view of the sea. So let's have a look. Why it's going to other hotels, I don't know. It's specifically, I'm asking for the Grand Hotel Giesbach. Let's have a look what type of rooms they have. Here we go. Okay, that's that room. The classic double room with the view of the forest. Here they go. So they're not too bad. When I looked, the prices were way higher than that. That's not too bad, actually. I looked a while back. But these are the rooms. What sort of view does this have? It doesn't say. So you get a view of the waterfall with these rooms, which is nice. Although, that's quite a nice view, I would say. And it's a continental breakfast, which just means like a croissant and a bit of jam. I mean, for these prices, I want a full English breakfast of the gods. You know what I mean? These are the rooms that you want. This is of the lake. These are a deluxe double room with a view of the lake. And only 2 rooms left. So these are popular. People are prepared to pay. And as I say, if you're going to go to a hotel like that, you got to have the good room with the big view, something to remember. Would you pay this much? Let's say it's the equivalent of about $600 American, more or less. Would you pay that much for one night in one of these rooms? I'm sure it's a wonderful experience. I'm not sure. Is it a waste of money or is it a memory gained? I guess a bit of both. But this is the Elegant Suite. That's also with a lake view. Now, I mean, we're going up. It's a lot of money for one night when you think of what you could do with that money, really. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I wouldn't mind going. Imagine how much it would cost in high summer. That's when it's really booked out. Then you're going to be paying a lot more. So this is one with a forest view. That's quite cheap. It's probably an airing cupboard or a linen cupboard. Oh, my dear. Would you pay that much? I'm sure the rich people out there might. Those of us who are, having to struggle along, it may be a bit much to justify. But I wouldn't mind going there. I wouldn't mind if I had some spare money on the side, I think I would make that trip. You wouldn't forget it. But at the end of the day, it's a bed. I mean, you could walk around the area free of charge and then drive to a cheaper hotel. And once you're actually in the suite, okay, you can wander around the hotel and have a look at it. But you could probably do that anyway. You could probably pop in for a cup of coffee, and not have to stay overnight. Because basically, what are you doing? Yeah, well, I'm not going to ask what you're doing in the hotel room, but it's a bed, isn't it? I don't know. I'm rambling. Okay. Then again, I could wander around the haunted cloister for a fraction of the cost, and instead of bumping into crusty old Horace Davenet or Davenet, I could perhaps hook up with a couple of lascivious nuns, or the ghosts thereof. That sounds more exciting to me, and it's not that far away. I guess I could pop over there. I've never been there before. I've been to the area, but I never knew about the haunted reputation of the nunnery, or the ex-nunnery. Definitely. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on too much. It's quite a long one this time. I will just give you a quick show and tell. The first item is this old advertising, and it's from Ticino. The Italians pronounce it Ticino. Ticino is the Italian part of Switzerland, and I actually got this in Ticino from an old junk store. And it's advertising sort of a pharmaceutical protection against influenza. So it's really, I love the barrier, blocking it out, blocking those foreigners out. Swiss being a sort of an enclosed country, they've had to battle off all sorts of invading forces over the centuries. And the second one is this. I also got that from the same store, from this junk store in Ticino. It was run by a lady whose parents had started it after World War II. They had fled Germany because of the persecution. They were Jewish. They opened up this store. And I found this. It's in remarkable condition. It's an advertisement for migraines or headache tablets. And that was actually the original bulb. It's probably from about the 1930s. The original bulb was in it. She had it at the back of the storeroom. It was covered in dust. She didn't even have it up for sale. I said, how much for that? And she was surprised that anyone wanted it. I just thought it was so unusual. So, yeah, I bought this. And the bell, can you see the bell there? That used to work. There was a little motor on the back, and that would actually swing back and forth. I don't know whether it made a noise or not. And they would have put this in the shop window of a chemist store. They would have had that as an advertisement there. So at night time it would be lit up. I thought that's probably the only surviving example, and I've got it. Probably because no one else wants it. But I like it. One day when I have more time, I might get the motor running again. Anyway, my dears, it has been a long one. I'm going to head off now. I do hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Let me know which place you would stay in. Would you stay in the old sanatorium? That seems to be the spookiest one, doesn't it? Oh. All right, my dears, God bless. Take care, and bye-bye.